First Contact's Folly. Supreme Commander Vexthor stood aboard the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, his iridescent scales reflecting the soft blue glow of holographic displays. The massive flagship of the Zetheri Empire's 7th Conquest Fleet hung in the darkness of space, surrounded by over 3,000 warships. Their target, a seemingly insignificant blue planet in an unremarkable solar system. Report, Vexthor commanded, his multifaceted eyes scanning the tactical displays. First Analyst Suriel stepped forward, her ceremonial armor clicking softly against the polished deck. Supreme Commander, preliminary scans of the third planet show primitive orbital infrastructure and basic satellite networks. Their most advanced facilities appear to be simple space stations, none equipped with meaningful defensive capabilities. Vexthor's mandibles clicked in amusement. And this is the species that features so prominently in galactic legends, the ones who supposedly drove back the Nexus swarm. Yes, Supreme Commander, Suriel confirmed, ringing up historical records on a nearby display, though most consider those tales to be mere mythology. The timestamps would place such events over 3 centuries ago, and our scans show no evidence of the technological advancement such feats would require. The bridge crew maintained their professional composure, but Vexthor could sense their collective disdain. The Zetheri Empire had conquered 17 star systems in the past solar cycle alone. Their technological supremacy was absolute, their tactics unmatched. The idea that these humans could pose any real threat seemed laughable. Their global communications are primitive as well, Second Analyst Krovac added, his voice tinged with derision. They still rely on electromagnetic transmissions and physical infrastructure. We're detecting multiple competing nation-states, suggesting a lack of unified planetary governance. Vexthor moved closer to the main viewport, watching as the blue planet slowly rotated below them. Their fleet had emerged from hyperspace behind the planet's moon, using its mass to mask their arrival. Standard protocol for dealing with pre-spacefaring civilizations. Prepare the standard conquest deployment, Vexthor ordered. Have the Psychological Warfare Division begin broadcasting surrender demands on all frequencies. I want this operation completed within 1 planetary rotation. As his officers hurried to comply, Vexthor allowed himself a moment of reflection. Throughout his career, he had heard whispered stories about humanity. Tales of their resourcefulness, their adaptability, their fierce determination. Some veteran commanders even advised avoiding Earth entirely, claiming the risk wasn't worth the potential gain. But Vexthor had built his reputation on decisive victories against supposedly dangerous opponents. The Empire needed this system's resources, and he would deliver them, adding another triumph to his flawless record. Supreme Commander, Suriel called out, her tone suddenly uncertain. We're detecting some anomalous readings from the planet's moon. Elaborate. There appear to be gaps in our sensor coverage. Small areas where our scans simply don't return data. They could be equipment malfunctions, but... Run a full diagnostic, Vexthor interrupted. I want our systems operating at peak efficiency before we begin the invasion. Yes, Supreme Commander. As the fleet began moving into attack formation, none of the Zetheri noticed the subtle changes taking place across Earth's surface. In hidden bunkers and classified facilities, alerts were silently triggering. Dormant systems were coming online, and deep beneath the lunar surface, something ancient and powerful was awakening. The mighty Zetheri fleet, pride of the Empire, was about to learn why humans had featured so prominently in those galactic legends, and why some stories weren't myths at all. Their first hint came when 3 of their outermost sensor drones simultaneously went dark. Supreme Commander, Krovac called out, his professional demeanor cracking slightly. We've lost contact with multiple reconnaissance units. Vexthor's antenna twitched in irritation. Local stellar phenomena. Negative. The pattern suggests. Krovac hesitated. It suggests targeted interference. Before Vexthor could respond, the main tactical display flickered. A new signal was cutting through their communications network with impossible ease. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force," a calm human voice announced in perfect Zethari. "Your presence in our system is unauthorized. You have 5 minutes to begin withdrawal procedures before we initiate defensive protocols. This will be your only warning." Silence fell across the bridge. Vex Thor's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation he quickly suppressed. These primitives not only had the audacity to threaten his fleet, but they somehow spoke his language and had breached their most secure communications channels. "Trace that signal," he ordered sharply. "Find its source and prepare tow." The rest of his command was cut off as new alerts began blaring across the bridge. Multiple ships in the outer formation were reporting critical system failures. Their shield generators were cycling down, weapon systems going offline, navigation computers giving contradictory readings. "Impossible," Sariel whispered, her claws flying across her console. "They're using our own command protocols against us. But how could they even know? All ships, initiate emergency cyber warfare protocols." Vex Thor roared. "Switch to backup systems," and every display on the bridge suddenly went dark. When they reactivated seconds later, they showed something that made Vex Thor's blood run cold. The surface of Earth's moon was changing. Massive sections of the cratered surface were sliding apart, revealing vast chambers that had been hidden from their scans. And from those chambers, something was emerging. The Zethari Empire was about to discover exactly how wrong they'd been about humanity's level of technological advancement, and why some veterans had warned them to stay far, far away from Earth. The silent defense. Deep within the Cheyenne Mountain complex, Admiral Sarah Chen stood before a holographic representation of the solar system, watching as thousands of red dots representing the Zethari fleet held position near the moon. Around her, the Global Defense Command Center hummed with controlled activity as military personnel from every major nation worked in perfect synchronization. "Status of the Artemis Protocol?" she asked, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. Colonel James Rodriguez, head of Special Weapons Development, stepped forward. "Lunar Defense Grid is fully operational. Admiral, all quantum arrays are powered and targeting solutions are locked. The Zethari haven't detected our subsurface installations or the zero-point energy network. And the solar shield. Online and ready," Lieutenant Yuki Tanaka reported from her station. "Quantum entanglement communications are stable across all defensive platforms. They won't be able to jam or intercept our transmissions." Chen allowed herself a small smile. For 3 centuries, humanity had prepared for this moment. After their first devastating encounter with hostile aliens, the one that had spawned all those myths, Earth's nations had united in secret. While maintaining a facade of division and technological primitivism, they had built a defense system unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. "Their systems are fully compromised," reported Dr. Aisha Patel, her fingers dancing across multiple holographic interfaces. "Our quantum eye has mapped their entire command and control infrastructure. We can shut down any ship in their fleet at will." The alien fleet's formation shifted slightly, likely responding to the loss of their sensor drones. Chen knew the next few moments would be crucial. If the Zethari commander was wise, he would retreat. If not, "Admiral," Rodriguez called out, "we're detecting power spikes across their fleet. They're charging weapons." Chen nodded, unsurprised. The Zethari Empire's arrogance was legendary. "Very well. Initialize Phase 2. Let's show them why Earth is still free after all these centuries." Across the solar system, humanity's true defensive capabilities began to reveal themselves. The moon's surface continued to transform as massive structures emerged from hidden chambers. But these weren't simple weapon platforms. They were the visible tip of a technological iceberg centuries in the making. Quantum-locked fields of invisible nanites spread out from the lunar installations, creating a web of sensors and weapon platforms that could neither be detected nor destroyed by conventional means. Gravimetric distortion fields capable of shredding capital ships activated around Earth's orbital lanes, and in the asteroid belt, thousands of automated defense platforms awakened from their dormant state. On the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, Supreme Commander Vexthor watched in growing horror as his fleet's sophisticated sensors finally began penetrating humanity's deceptive technological veil. What they revealed defied everything he had believed about this supposedly primitive species. "Impossible," Sariel whispered, her professional composure cracking. "These energy readings, they're beyond anything in our databases. The power requirements alone would require multiple quantum singularities detected," Krovac shouted. "They're using contained black holes as power sources." Vexthor's mandibles clicked rapidly as he processed this information. The humans hadn't just advanced beyond their apparent technological level. They had developed in completely different directions than the Zetheri Empire. While his people had focused on brute force and overwhelming firepower, humanity had pursued subtlety and efficiency. "Supreme Commander," Sariel called out, her voice tight with tension, "we're detecting some kind of quantum field expanding through our formation. Our shields aren't. It's passing right through them." Before Vexthor could respond, the tactical display updated with new information that made his blood run cold. The humans hadn't just built defensive installations, they had transformed the entire solar system into an interlocking defense grid. Every asteroid, every piece of space debris, even the seemingly empty void itself, had been weaponized in ways his scientists barely understood. "Your time is up, Supreme Commander." Admiral Chen's voice came through once again, still eerily calm. "Since you have chosen not to withdraw, we will now demonstrate why that was a mistake." The first demonstration came in the form of a previously invisible defense satellite less than a kilometer from the Eternal Dawn. Its quantum shroud dissolved, revealing a device that seemed to bend space itself around it. Before Vexthor could order evasive action, it fired. The beam that lanced out wasn't plasma or any other conventional energy weapon. It was a concentrated stream of manipulated spacetime itself, carrying with it laws of physics that contradicted the very existence of the Zetheri shields. Where it struck, matter simply ceased to exist, converted instantly into pure energy. 3 Zetheri capital ships vanished in the first volley, their atoms dispersed into quantum foam. The mighty Empire's supposedly invincible fleet was about to learn that they weren't just fighting humans. They were fighting 3 centuries of paranoid preparation and scientific advancement that had evolved in complete secrecy, driven by the memory of that first, nearly catastrophic alien contact. Turning the tide. Aboard the Eternal Dawn, Supreme Commander Vexthor fought to maintain control of his increasingly chaotic bridge. Warning signals blared as more ships disappeared from tactical displays, their destruction defying every known law of warfare. The Zetheri fleet's formation, once a perfect expression of military precision, had devolved into desperate attempts at survival. Multiple quantum anomalies detected. Krovac shouted over the din. "They're opening micro-wormholes inside our shield perimeters." Vexthor watched in horror as space itself seemed to fold and twist around his ships. Human weapons platforms would appear from nowhere, fire devastating volleys that ignored their most advanced defenses, then vanish again into subspace pockets that shouldn't have been possible to create, let alone control. "Redirect all power to the temporal stabilization fields," he ordered. It was a desperate gambit. The technology was experimental, barely tested. But facing an enemy that could manipulate spacetime itself, they had no choice. "Supreme Commander," Sariel called out, her voice tight with barely controlled panic, "we're detecting new energy signatures from the asteroid belt. They're moving the asteroids." The tactical display updated to show something that defied comprehension. Hundreds of asteroids were changing course, accelerated by gravimetric drives that had laid dormant within them for centuries. But these weren't simple kinetic weapons. Each asteroid had been hollowed out and transformed into a mobile fortress, bristling with quantum weaponry and protected by fields that bent light around them. In the Cheyenne Mountain complex, Admiral Chen watched the Zetheri's desperate attempts to adapt with clinical detachment. "Status of the Helios array?" she asked. "Fully charged and ready," Colonel Rodriguez reported. "All solar collectors are aligned, waiting for your command." Chen nodded slowly. The Helios array had been humanity's most ambitious project. A network of quantum-linked solar energy collectors hidden throughout the solar system, capable of channeling the raw power of the sun itself into precisely targeted strategic strikes. "The Zethari are attempting to stabilize their temporal fields," Dr. Puddle reported, her fingers dancing across holographic controls. "Their adaptation speed is impressive, but not impressive enough," Lieutenant Tanaka added. "Our quantum eye has already identified 17 vulnerabilities in their new defense configuration." Chen allowed herself a grim smile. The Zethari were learning quickly, but they were trying to counter technologies that humanity had spent centuries perfecting. Every defensive measure they attempted had already been anticipated and countered in simulations run decades ago. "Initialize the Prometheus protocol," Chen commanded. "Let's show them what happens when you threaten a species that's been preparing for this moment for 300 years. Across the solar system, humanity's defense grid shifted into its next phase. The quantum field surrounding the Zethari fleet began to pulse with new energy as billions of nanites reconfigured themselves at the atomic level. Space itself seemed to ripple as carefully hidden gravitational technologies activated, creating a web of distorted space-time that would trap the alien fleet like insects in amber. On the Eternal Dawn's bridge, Vex Thor watched with growing dread as new alerts flooded his displays. Something was happening to the very fabric of space around his fleet, something that went beyond even the impossible technologies they'd already witnessed. "Supreme Commander," Sariel's voice cracked with disbelief. They're creating a localized bubble of altered physical constants. Our weapons, they won't." Before she could finish, every Zethari weapon system simultaneously failed. The humans hadn't just disabled their technology. They had temporarily changed the underlying physics that made their weapons possible. "This is your final opportunity, Supreme Commander," Admiral Chen's voice came through once again. "Your fleet is trapped in a region of space where your technology cannot function as designed. You can still surrender." Vex Thor's mandibles clicked rapidly as he processed their situation. His mighty fleet, pride of the Empire, was being systematically dismantled by an enemy that wielded laws of physics themselves as weapons, an enemy that had spent centuries preparing for this exact moment, developing technologies in directions no other species had even conceived of. The Hidden Army. As the Zethari fleet struggled against humanity's space-based defenses, the surface of Earth underwent its own transformation. In every major city, seemingly ordinary buildings began to shift and change. Skyscrapers that had appeared to be simple office buildings revealed themselves as disguised weapon platforms. Parks and public squares shimmed as holographic camouflage deactivated, exposing advanced defense installations. In the Cheyenne Mountain complex, a new section of the command center activated. General Maya Santos, commander of Earth's ground forces, stepped onto the central platform as holographic displays materialized around her. "Ground defense grid is fully operational," she reported to Admiral Chen. "All surface-to-space weapon systems are online. Quantum shields are at full power over every major population center." "Status of the Titan units?" Chen asked. Santos allowed herself a small smile. "All 12 divisions are ready for deployment. The Zethari won't know what hit them if they try to land troops." Deep beneath the Earth's surface, in vast underground hangars, humanity's ground forces waited. The Titan units were the pinnacle of human combat engineering. 20-story tall mechanized combat platforms that combined quantum technology with biological enhancement. Each one was piloted by a specially trained crew linked directly to their machine through neural interfaces, capable of moving with the precision of a dancer while wielding the firepower of a battleship. On the Eternal Dawn, Supreme Commander Vex Thor was receiving increasingly desperate reports. His fleet's attempts to launch landing craft had been thwarted by precise strikes from surface-based weapons they couldn't even detect. Every scan of the planet's surface showed different results, as if the entire world was a shifting hologram designed to confuse and disorient. "Supreme Commander," Sariel called out, her voice shaking, "we're detecting massive energy signatures emerging from the planet's surface. They're unlike anything in our database." Vexthor watched in stunned silence as the tactical display updated. Across Earth's surface, massive figures were rising from hidden bunkers. The Titan units moved with impossible grace for their size, their quantum-enhanced armor refracting light in ways that made them difficult to track even with the most advanced sensors. "Launch all remaining dropships," he ordered, mandibles clicking frantically. "We must secure a foothold on the surface before." His words were cut off as the first wave of dropships encountered Earth's atmospheric defenses. The humans had seeded their upper atmosphere with clouds of self-replicating nanites, programmed to disassemble any unauthorized craft at the molecular level. The Zethari ships simply dissolve, their components reconstructed into more nanites. In Cheyenne Mountain, Dr. Patel's hands flew across her console. "The Zethari are attempting to modify their ship's hull composition to resist the nanites," she reported, "uploading new consumption protocols to the swarm now. They adapt quickly," Chen observed. "But we've had centuries to perfect our defenses. General Santos, prepare the Lazarus Protocol." Santos nodded grimly. The Lazarus Protocol was their ultimate ground-based deterrent, a network of quantum-locked stasis fields that could freeze entire armies in temporal bubbles, combined with matter reconstruction arrays that could literally reshape the battlefield at will. "Multiple enemy signatures attempting atmospheric entry," Lieutenant Tanaka reported. "They're using some kind of quantum shielding to protect against the nanites." "Activate the Titan's Aegis mode," Santos commanded. "Let's show them why ground invasion of Earth has been impossible for 3 centuries. Across the planet, the Titan units responded. Their quantum cores pulsed with energy as they activated their most powerful defensive capabilities. The air around them seemed to crystallize as they generated overlapping fields of altered spacitime, creating zones where the laws of physics could be selectively enforced or ignored. Legacy of myths. Supreme Commander Vexthor stood motionless on his bridge, watching as his mighty invasion force crumbled before the combined might of humanity's defense systems. The Eternal Dawn shuddered as another volley of quantum weapons pierced their failing shields. Around them, the remnants of the Zethari fleet fought desperately against an enemy that seemed to have planned for their every move centuries in advance. "Supreme Commander," Sariel's voice was barely a whisper, "we've lost contact with all landing forces. The humans' ground defenses, they're not just destroying our troops. They're rewriting the physical space they occupy." Through the tactical displays, Vexthor watched as the last of his dropships encountered the Titan units. The massive human war machines moved with impossible precision, their quantum fields reducing advanced Zethari weapons to useless relics. Where the Titans walked, reality itself seemed to bow to human will. "Send the signal," he finally ordered, his mandibles clicking softly in defeat. All ships are to stand down." In the Cheyenne Mountain complex, Admiral Chen received the Zethari surrender with the same calm she had maintained throughout the battle. Around her, the command staff continued their work, monitoring the defense grid for any signs of deception. "The Zethari fleet has powered down all weapons," Lieutenant Tanaka confirmed. "Their command codes have been transmitted to our quantum AI for verification." "What of their communication buoys?" Chen asked. She knew the Zethari protocol for defeat. They would have launched automated signals to warn the Empire. Dr. Patel smiled slightly. "Already contained within our quantum bubbles. No transmissions have left the solar system." Chen nodded, then opened a channel to the Eternal Dawn. "Supreme Commander Vexthor, your surrender is acknowledged. You will maintain your current position while we prepare for your delegation's transfer. There are things you need to understand." Hours later, Vexthor found himself in a vast underground chamber beneath the lunar surface. The room was a museum of sorts, but unlike any he had ever seen. Along its walls, Holographic displays showed scenes from Earth's first contact with hostile aliens 3 centuries ago. "We were nearly wiped out," Admiral Chen explained as they walked. "The technology gap was too great, our defenses too primitive. We survived through luck and desperation, nothing more." "But you learned," Vexthor observed, his scientific curiosity overcoming his shame as he studied the displays. "We did more than learn," General Santos added. "We transformed our entire civilization. On the surface, we maintained the appearance of division and technological stagnation. But beneath that facade, Earth's nations united with a single purpose: to ensure we would never be vulnerable again." They reached the chamber center, where a massive hologram showed the solar system and its intricate defense network. Vexthor finally understood the true scope of human preparation. Every asteroid, every moon, even the space between planets had been converted into an interlocking defensive grid. The entire system was one vast fortress, protected by technologies that had evolved along paths no other species had explored. "Your empire believes itself invincible," Chen said quietly. "You classify other species as primitive or advanced based on how closely their technology matches your own. But while you focused on perfecting known principles, we chose a different path. We asked questions no one else thought to ask. We explored possibilities others dismissed as impossible." "And now?" Vexthor asked, already suspecting the answer. "Now you will return to your empire with a message," Chen replied. "Earth is not primitive. We simply chose to appear so. We have no interest in conquest or expansion, but we will defend ourselves, and we will do so with technologies your scientists cannot yet comprehend." As Vexthor prepared to return to his ship, he thought about the stories that had circulated through the Empire for centuries. Tales of human ingenuity, of their ability to overcome impossible odds. He had dismissed them as myths, but now he understood. The myths hadn't exaggerated human capabilities. If anything, they had understated them. In the years that followed, the galaxy's political landscape shifted dramatically. The Zethari Empire's report on Earth's true capabilities sent shockwaves through interstellar society. Species that had dismissed humans as primitive now scrambled to establish diplomatic relations. The myths about humanity didn't fade. They grew stronger, backed now by the testimony of an entire invasion fleet that had witnessed their power firsthand. But Earth remained as it always had, seemingly primitive on the surface, while its true strength lay hidden beneath layers of deception and quantum fields. The humans were content to let the galaxy think they understood their capabilities, knowing that what they had revealed was only a fraction of what they could do. After all, 3 centuries of paranoid preparation had taught them one vital lesson: it's better to be underestimated and prepared than overestimated and vulnerable. The myths about humanity would continue to grow, and deep beneath the Earth's surface, in hidden facilities that bent space and time, they would continue to advance, ready for whatever the galaxy might throw at them next.